Hello, welcome back. I am Charles Musgrove, your host of Business Matters. You know what we do. We bring those nuggets of knowledge to those viewers and listeners on the radio show. We're out there on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio. You can also check us on YouTube. So check us out on YouTube. We'll try to leave some information there that'll reference over to our special guest for today. And you know, we have some awesome guests on our show. Today's going to be no exception. We have Chip Merlin. He's an attorney. He's got the inside knowledge on business interruption and other things, risk management. So, Chip, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I love the what I see in the background in your office. You got the Pay Up. That's a new book that you just wrote. So, congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Forbes Books helped publish it with me, and it came out in March. Kind of a crazy time for it to come out, but
wow, that is awesome. So, yeah, right in the middle of COVID.
Right in the middle of it, and it's created quite a few actually questions because of COVID and the businesses that are being affected right now, whether or not they're able to make an insurance claim.
Yeah, that's been a big issue that we've helped clients with as well. Is not necessarily on any insurance claims, but that's just been a big question as to will there be any insurance available?
We think so. We think we're representing clients right now. Not everybody. And I say this in all sincerity. We don't know for certain how everything's going to go play out. And I've told everybody, if you have a business interruption policy, you have loss of civil authority, almost anybody can be in the game, because we can't predict the future. I don't know what's going to happen on legislation. I don't know what's going to happen on legislation at the federal level. I can't predict for certain, how the court cases are going to go. I can tell people, and we'll share that, what are the easiest to the hardest, for that. But we are actually filing lawsuits on a number of business clients that we think certainly have coverage. On our best cases, we're pushing those forward.
Good. We'll definitely talk about that. I think that's just a hot topic. A lot of businesses, they're worried about when they reopen what their liability exposure is going to be. So if somebody comes in and maybe they're a COVID transmitter, and somebody that's visiting the restaurant or the bar or the gym or whatever it is, they catch COVID from that place of business. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But it doesn't have to be the actual thing. Doesn't have to happen for somebody to bring litigation. So that creates a whole issue, and with everybody's got a camera on their cell phone, so they're going to take pictures of people gathering. Maybe they're not in compliance at that moment. It's kind of hard to control everybody, but maybe you've got a group of more than 10 people, or they're not exercising the 6-foot social distancing, and that just is information or documentation for an attorney and a plaintiff to bring a lawsuit.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's going to be a novel area of the law that's going to come up. It's going to be very unique, and I can understand. In businesses, you never know. I was posed a question by somebody who said at a hospital, Chip, would you represent somebody who they think the virus to them transmitted at a hospital? I said, I don't do medical malpractice. This is who you need to go sue. But it's literally a medical malpractice claim, and I've read some out in the literature that the market for insurance for doctors and hospitals is actually rising because of their concern about not that there's even going to be liability, but just the defense costs of defending those lawsuits, because it's still the problems for the plaintiff is how they can prove where they got the virus from.
Right. So. Yeah, that's the truth. But the problem, it's I guess this is an issue that anybody that's in business or just if you're a Joe citizen out there, you're always vulnerable for somebody bringing suit against you. You may not have been wrong, but it's a lot of times it's pretty inexpensive to bring suit and make you defend your position.
So I tell people a lot. I said there's really two reasons why you want to have especially liability insurance for you. If you do make a mistake, you open up your umbrella and you poke somebody's eye out behind you. My God, look what I've done. And I have the financial wherewithal because I went out and I purchased liability insurance to pay my brother and sister that I did that accident to that I shouldn't have had. Here you go. Here's your money. The bigger problem a lot of times, and I'd say it's for a lot of businesses, you have lawsuits brought against you. It costs a fortune just to pay the attorneys on the other side. And so your insurance, even if you're not, at fault for it, to defend you, to have your own attorneys, that's a very valuable part of that insurance. And that's the reason why businesses should go out and buy the liability insurance, because you can go broke just paying attorney's fees.
Absolutely. Just on the defense costs. I mean, just to defend you to get to the position to say you were not wrong. So without that coverage for defense costs, you've lost before the game started.
It's a very, very important part of coverage that both from a personal aspect people should carry with them, and from a business they should as well. I typically say, the more affluent you get, the more that liability insurance, is important. People should be looking from their agents to get umbrella coverage and higher limits for all kinds of things that might happen, because life is very different. And who would ever think we might be talking about, could I be responsible or negligent with respect to the safety of my employees or my customers if they walk through the door and then now they said they got the virus right here at my business, So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've got clients that are bar owners, and I don't believe they've opened the bars back up yet in the state of Florida, but they're thinking, even once they're allowed to open back up, and even though it may be a limitation on the occupancy or how much they can have in there, 50% or 75%, they're thinking, I don't want to open my bar back until I get some assurance that this liability thing is not going to be an issue.
Well, I would hope, and I hear that sometimes, and I tell people all the time, guys, that's why you have insurance. You're supposed to take care of your customers. You're supposed to do the best you can. And that's all because it's a reasonable basis. It's not, I absolutely have to take care of everything that's going on. And the truth of the matter is, you buy that for peace of mind so that you can go on with the risks of any business whatsoever. Right. Insurance is a very important product. And the more affluent you are, the bigger your business is, the more important the product is. So you have enough limits so you can go out there and swing for the fences. I mean, you really can. That's the beauty of insurance.
Yeah, that's why you have it. It is, then you get into the issue, and we can talk about this too. And this is kind of a basic concept, but the more you insure, the higher the cost is. So if we're insuring for everything that you can think of, the insurance becomes unaffordable. So, that's one of the fallbacks too, or one of the questions is on the business interruption that we'll get into is, if it's covered, did the insurance company anticipate that when they wrote the policy? So if they did, then good. They should be, that risk is on them. But if not, then maybe it falls back to a similar situation on the Terrorism Act. After the planes hit the World Trade Center and what happened on 9/11, then you had the exclusion for terrorist acts. So that may be a similar thing that we have here. I don't know.
Well, and right now there is a pending legislation in front of Congress that is, we're going to call it the Pandemic Risk Insurance Act, PREA, similar to terrorism, which is TRIA.
That's right.
As it is right now, to be prospective, not retroactive. I'd heard there was some debate as to whether or not they would make it retroactive, and the government acts as a funding source and stop for the insurance communities on it. But you also talked about the intent of the parties, of the insurance companies and industry. Did they want to insure for the pandemic for virus? And they had actually developed after the SARS stuff in 2007, 2008, an endorsement that excludes a loss caused by virus, essentially. And I've told everybody those are going to be much more difficult claims to bring. I'm certain there'll be some discovery on it, but we have one client that came to us because I represent policyholders and says, here's the endorsement that says it's not covered. I got another endorsement that says it covers it. It's the only one we've seen so far that way. It might be just a complete one-off. There's been a few, not many, businesses that had enough foresight and when you could buy it cheaply. I mean, you got to buy pandemic insurance coverage today. It's going to be off the charts. It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
And most of it's been pulled. But a year ago, you could have bought it. And some major businesses did go out and buy it specifically with respect to what's going on right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Those guys had some awesome foresight, or if they had and we can talk about it a little bit if we have time on the show about the role a captive would play in this too, and who that caters to, and what what it picks up that the traditional business interruption or general liability policy would not pick up on. So we can touch on that. Before we start the show, tell me a little bit about your firm and your track record or your history. I know that you recently put out the new book, Pay Up. I see that in the background. I love that. So just give me a little bit of background, the viewers and the audience, a little background on you.
Well, I went to the University of Florida, graduated from law school in 1982, and became a member of the bar in 1983. And the first job I had out was representing insurance carriers as their coverage counsel on insurance defense involving property insurance. And I was doing that for a firm that was growing very, very fast here in Florida, in Tampa, Florida, and flying all over the country with satellites, blowing up after being shot off, the boilers blowing up, to all kinds of crazy Mount St. Helens claims way back when in the 80s. And after a few years of doing that, nobody was really representing the policyholders at that time. And so on that very small little niche area of property insurance law, and we were rolling over people, winning. And sometimes I thought if they had a better attorney who really just did nothing but that it would change. And so after a few years, I switched to 1985 and I started a policyholder firm with one person, me, at a very young age. I've been doing it for 35 years now as a policyholder attorney. Our firm now has over 60 attorneys from offices within Los Angeles, San Francisco. We have 15 attorneys out in San Juan right now and in places in between. And this is what we do for a living. All we do is first-party insurance coverage litigation for policyholders who are in disputes with their insurance companies, and that would include life and health and disability policies as well too. Predominantly what we do is represent people and businesses and governmental entities in property insurance disputes, which would also include business interruption claims.
Good. Yeah, that's a great area, great niche of the law, because it's whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, I've had the experience where I've needed to work with a firm just like you, because and I'm sure that this is kind of common sense, and it was one of the baseline reasons for what you do and the service you provide to the policyholder. But the policyholder, in many cases, those are the little guys, so they're going up against the big insurance company with all the resources imaginable. They have it all. So they've got all the attorneys, they wrote the policy, so they know what it is, and they have people that their sole purpose is to beat those policyholders back and not pay out claims. Well, so I think what you do is that's admirable and that's needed.
I appreciate you saying that. It especially when I first started out, there were probably, on one hand, I could count the number of attorneys that just limited their practice to solely policyholder work, and that's all they do. There's more people now. There's more specialties going on in the field of law. But you hit the nail on the head. The insurance companies, in advance, their actuaries can figure out all the costs, the agents that they have to pay the commission to, what they're going to eventually have to pay out,
right?
$80, the taxes that are going to get paid out. They even put in there the amount of the litigation costs. So your premium dollars actually funds the insurance company's expense of litigating against you to collect back on the benefits, and there's still in advance the amount set out for profit. So all that's put in the calculation when the policy is then sold to the policyholder. The policyholder he buys the product, hopefully never having to use it. Year after year after year, you renew your policy, and then finally, if something really bad happens, the last thing you want to hear about is, sorry, we're not going to pay you. We're not going to pay as much as what you really need to get back in business or to restore your home, whatever it might be. And that's the situation. Then typically people will find their way to hopefully somebody like me that really understands how this works, how insurance policies work, how insurance works, and lead them that way. It's you wouldn't go to I often say you wouldn't go to a toe doctor to take care of brain surgery, and the law's gotten to be that way. People start to limit their practice, and the bars actually say you can't. They say you can't say you specialize, but I can say I limit my practice to this particular little area of the law. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm glad you do that, and it's really, I think that's a good analogy, as you wouldn't go to a heart doctor for if you had a toe problem or vice versa. So, I think that's really needed, and that allows you to be, let's use the word since we can, an expert. So you're an expert in that area, so you know what to go after, what to look for, what to attack, and how to defend your client.
And I have 60 other people doing it in the firm, so we're all doing the same thing. You get to be best of breed. We're sharing information across the country, so it's a whole bunch of attorneys and people doing the same thing over and over and over. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to get pretty good at something if all you do is do the same thing over and over and over, and then learning from colleagues. You keep up and you study it. It's like any other thing in life. If you do it repetitively and you do it to the best you can, eventually you get pretty good at it. You get good at it.
Yeah. I guess the other interesting thing, not only are you specializing in that, but you've also refined it down further that you're doing business interruption and property and casualty. So, there's a whole there's plenty of other areas out there, from workers' comp to.
Yeah, but we don't do workers' comp. We've got it more and more and more limited in our firm. As a matter of fact, we won't even do liability. We won't represent policyholders on liability claim disputes. There's other colleagues now that's all they do is specialize there. We don't do D&O. We don't do the construction defect litigation regarding insurance coverage that way. We will do builder's risk coverage because it's a first party coverage, and any business interruption all the time because it's usually all within the same policy when businesses have the losses. And then we carved out one little thing for health and disability where we have some of our attorneys doing just nothing but those works, and some of those stories.
Yeah, that's probably very complicated on health and disability. I can imagine that's even more detailed than property is.
Yeah, there's a lot of regulations, but the more you do something over and over, you see the complexities of everything that goes on. I tell people, in our firm or lawyers, you've got to know everything about building construction, building codes. You then got to know how extra expense fits in with respect to the accounting, getting businesses back in. You got to understand what all the product and benefits that might be available. So the field of what you have to know, even though it's a very small field, the amount of knowledge to do it right is great.
It's deep. Yeah, you're right. I guess in the state of Florida, if you're doing property and casualty, then I would think the hurricanes and natural disasters like that are a big part of your practice as well.
They are right now. I remember we had 4 hurricanes in 2004, and then we had a major one, which was the 4th largest by dollar value, Hurricane Wilma, that came through, Florida, and then we didn't have another hurricane for 11 years. And so a lot of my time I spend on the road going to wherever disasters might be. I spent the better part of a couple of years in Mississippi and New Orleans after Katrina.
Right.
People in the firm were back here. We were up in New York and New Jersey after Superstorm Sandy.
Right.
For 3 years. I remember living up there. I had a great time, learned all about that area. But we have lava flows that go on in Hawaii. We have a hurricane in Puerto Rico and the Virgin. A lot of our practice ends up where we have major catastrophes. Certainly, our firm has attorneys there. But just day to day, there's things that happen. Things blow up. You get flooded out, and that's.
There's some floods now in Michigan, right? So you could be involved in that.
Floods going on in Michigan, and we'll see how all that plays out. And hopefully people have the flood insurance. What happens is year after year they go, geez, it's been 20 years. There's not been a flood. It's been 50 years. It's never flooded here. Why should I go get the flood insurance? And sure enough, as soon as you say I'm going to cancel or not get it, that's something bad happens.
The 100-year flood. Now I heard that not too long ago, was it in Michigan or Ohio where they had the 100-year flood, and now they're saying this one that must be in Michigan. Now they're saying this is the 500-year flood or something crazy.
That's what they were saying. It's the 500-year flood that came through, and it's pretty amazing how much of it. I mean, it destroyed dams. It's up on a river that's used to have some problems, but it can be very isolated in a particular area where they say it's 500. I really think what's going on, whatever the cause is that there's changes in the climate that are going on that we all can see, and there's it's more severe weather, more dumping of water, and we're going to get used to it. But in the interim, these things that used to be considered 500 years because of the change in climates, maybe they're every 50 years now. And we have to think of it differently and how we're going to protect ourselves from that. Yeah.
So we'll close out this pre-roll for one little shout out to COVID. So we can't blame the flood on COVID, can we?
No, we can't blame anything on that.
Yeah. So I don't know how if the COVID lockdown, if that's affected your firm or how you've done business over the past few months. I know that it probably has most everybody in America. So how has your firm dealt with it?
We were just like, I think every office except the office in Phoenix was just really shut down. Probably the most severe for a period of time in Puerto Rico, where they would arrest anybody just trying to drive around at night. And for some reason, all the local sheriffs and police officers knew who was there. Our office in Red Bank, New Jersey is not open. And I talked to those attorneys today. Our offices both in San Francisco and Los Angeles are closed. And I had a discussion with our attorneys and staff out there today. And the difference is I'm looking at everybody on computer screens. I'm seeing them more today because of the change of technology than I saw them when I was trying to fly and maybe see them 2 or 3 times a year. I'm seeing them at least once a week. We're using this technology. Frankly, I'm having a lot more fun working with my colleagues all over the country because I can see their face. We can talk. We're exchanging more information, and there's been the travel downtime that you would have. We're not losing that anymore. I thought at first we might be shutting down a lot of offices and having let people go, and we were on. You think at the start of it, the brink of it, but we've kind of come through on this much better, and with the thought that we possibly don't even need to have as much office space as we had in the past because people can work from home. I had one attorney up in Michigan, in the northern part of Grand Rapids, Minnesota, not Grand Rapids, Michigan, Grand Rapids, Minnesota. And it's where she grew up, and she's been able to work. She's normally out of our Chicago office. She said, this has really been an eye-opening experience. I get to go back home to where I used to grow up, where I love, where my heart's at, and she's working from there without missing a beat. And at first we didn't ever think that would happen. And so, knock on wood, we've been very, very lucky getting through all this. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, it's interesting. And that's a point I've had discussions with other business owners as well I've always had the thought I've expected that the way our business is set up, we provide outsourced accounting services, and we're set up already that we have an office, but we can work in a virtual setting because all of our records are in the cloud anyway. So no matter where we are, as long as we have power and internet connection, then we can access the information. Clients can access the information. You can talk on a cell phone. You just need to have a secure place that you're working and make sure your connection is secure. But, you can do that anywhere. And what this has really done is it's pushed people to test that. So now it's like, okay, I don't have a choice, and I'm not going out on a limb to try this. I've got to try it. I've got to do that to be able to continue work because we can't go to our office, or we have to provide this flexibility with our workforce. So I think what has happened to kind of underscore your point, what's the fallout? What's the impact going to be to the business real estate market? Because I think that's a discovery that a lot of business owners are finding out right now.
Well, let's see. My banker who called, and we had a discussion with them earlier this week because, as you said, in order to battle these large insurance companies, we have to have lines of credit to pay sometimes millions of dollars in these cases that we have on the bigger ones, and they want to know how the business is going. And one of the things they talked about, we talked about too, do you think you're going to need as much office space in the future? How's that? And we don't think we will. And I think across the board, many professional service firms are finding that their employees are very good employees and work very hard from home. They don't need to be in expensive office settings, and they can share offices and then work from home more, work just as even better remotely. And can't say exactly why. I can say that our expenses with respect to travel have just dropped considerably. That's a savings, and we don't need to travel if we're able to do things like
right. Yeah, exactly. The technology is available to do that. So now it's really forced us into, okay, we're going to go through a trial period, and we're forced to do that. It's not an option. So we've been forced to do it. We tested it. I think what you're saying and what I'm saying, I think you're going to see that with the majority of people out there. It's like, okay, this works pretty well, and we're just as efficient. We don't have to do this is bad for the airlines industry and the people that are in the travel industry, but you don't have to travel as much to get more done.
You don't have to have a car that's going to commute an hour in and an hour out. People love that. It saves them time. Office, whoever owns office space for professional service firms, they're in trouble. Yes, the airlines, because now we're learning we don't have to travel. I can see people that I work with all over. We're having virtual mediations that I think work just as well as what used to be in place. The only problem in our business we're having, when things blow up or go wrong and you need to have experts go out and forensically take a look at buildings, how much is it going to cost, and visit various places to do, on-site inspections, they still have to be able to get there. And we've been slowed down, from that. We can't do trials right now. And some insurance companies, sometimes they will wait until the very end on the doorstep before you finally get the full settlement that you're going to get, right?
Right.
And so that slowed us down a little bit. But by and large, everybody seems to be working at a much higher rate. And I did not anticipate that as this was first starting. I think like any other business owner, most of us were scared, as can be. But it's kind of turned out the other way.
Yeah, it's funny that I've had a lot of my employees, they love it and they're as efficient as they were in an office setting. And then I've had some that say, okay, I've done this enough. I'm ready to go back to the office at least for 3 days a week. Yeah. So that now you're going to get like I won't say it's the worst scenario, but now you're going to have the situation where you got to have your office space that is flexible enough that you're going to have people coming in some days and they're not in some days. So it's you can have less, but it's also you could end up where you don't have the same. I guess that person has that space all the time.
I think some of the younger attorneys and staff members who have the spouse at home, the children at home, and the dog at home. One of my Derek Chaikin in our Los Angeles office, I called him and I'm talking to him. And I got to get out of Chip. I got to get back to the office. I can't stand this anymore. The dog my kids are chasing the dog. My wife's screaming at me to go get him. And I got to take your phone call at the same time. We need to get back into an office space. So you have those people who definitely want to get back there because it's better for them to work. But by and large, a lot of people, especially if you're able to set it up and you're able to get away, your space to go work, and it's set up that way. And I think when children are able to go back to school and we're back to a normalcy, you're going to find the new normalcy is people are going to have home office spaces to work from at a much greater frequency, and they're going to have more time at home, more time with their children, more time with their family. Hopefully that won't lead to more divorce attorneys being busy, but I think that's what we're going to find.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's very interesting, and I'm hesitant to use the new normal because I don't know what that is, and I don't think everybody's ready to give up what normal was before either. There's a lot of what happened in the past that people, I don't think they will give up on that, or do they want to give up on that? But there's going to be somewhat of a different delivery method. There's going to be some twist to it. There will be some adaptation that people have to do.
Always, I thought, you talk about life-changing events for the world or for the United States. I mean, September 11 definitely was for a lot of us, and how you get around and travel on airlines changed a lot. For a period of time, I was flying private because I was so upset with the commercial airlines afterwards. And for a while, they talked about not allowing people to have cell phones, as you go on an airplane, which then kind of forced you, if you're in business and you needed to be somewhere. This change in technology that we now have is huge, and it's allowing us to change and forcing change on us. And I think that for most businesses, we should always be thinking about things are never the same. They do change. I guess the one normal might be is change is always going on.
Right. One thing that is consistent is change will happen.
Yeah.
So good. I think let's take about a 5-second break here. So if you want to stand up and jump around for 5 seconds, we'll do that. And then when we come back on, then John will have played the lead-in music, and we'll be on for the show.
You got it.
Welcome to the Business Matters Talk Show with Charles Musgrove. On Business Matters, we discuss the issues that matter to your business. Find more episodes on Apple Podcast, YouTube, and beanteam.com. And now here's your host, Charles Musgrove.
Welcome back. I am Charles Musgrove, your host for Business Matters. You know what we do. We bring nuggets of knowledge for the viewers and the audience out there. So we try to deal with the issues that are relevant, that really matter to your business. So one of the things that often people have to deal with is insurance, to make sure that they have the right insurance coverage in place, that they have right risk management. And today we are blessed. We have Chip Merlin on the show with us today. Chip, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Good. We are still, I've been leading the show off recently since we've been in this COVID crisis, COVID lockdown, whatever you want to call that. It's everything COVID, it seems like. So today is May, let me look at my clock here, May the 22nd, and it is 3:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you know how fast things have changed over the past 3 months. So I just find it important to say the day and the time that we're having this discussion, because when people watch or listen to this in a week or later on, they're going to say, well, that things have changed so much since then. So whether it's a day or a week, I think it's important to say that. So, we're in the state of Florida. Chip, you're down in Tampa. I'm over in Destin and Miramar Beach and Sandestin, and we've got this recorded over in out of Tallahassee, Florida, out of the Real Talk 93.3 studio. We've got John Jopling over there. So we've got 3 different places. So we're a testament to the technology that we're all living in right now today. And I think that's been awesome. That's one thing that COVID has forced us to do, is to learn the technology, live with it. And I think most people are loving it.
I think you feel closer to the colleagues you work with. We actually have offices in Panama City, Florida, because of Hurricane Michael. While my father was in the Coast Guard, and I lived in Panama City, Florida for 2 years, went to Mosley High School, and I'm still I think since 1986, a member of the San Andreas Bay Yacht Club in Panama City, Florida. I like to get up that area. It's great friends, lifetime friends up there, and they were just devastated after Hurricane Michael. But I'm able to talk to them every single day, even despite the fact that my last time I flew on an airplane was go to Panama City, Marietta, and Panama City, Florida. And
wow.
At that time, I have not been flying. I guess that was March the 16th, I believe. And for me, for a guy who was flying over 250 segments, a year, to not for 2 months straight now, not being able to fly is very different. Yet, because of the technology, I feel like I'm working closer, better, having more fun than I ever have in many years. We can just share and see each other every single day, where we haven't been able to do that in the past.
Well, think of all the time you get back too. So I know that is what's good, that it allows us to recapture all that time. The bad thing is there's a whole airline industry and there's a whole travel industry out there that's been dramatically impacted by that too. And who knows what the outlook on that industry or those industries is going to be in the future.
As one industry goes down, another one picks back up. There's all kinds of people in our IT departments now that are working overtime trying to make this new technology work. I think that's just the nature of business as we go through. But the truth of the matter is us being able to communicate and see each other visually and work visually and learn how to use the tools that were there but we weren't really using before has changed dramatically. And many business people now understand, hey, there's a new world out there. We don't have to leave our loved ones to go fly over there for a week, to come back at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning just to get up and go fly somewhere else again. We can do it this way. In terms of a lifestyle, I think a lot of us are a lot happier for it, despite the fact some of our brothers and sisters might have to go look for a career change because the demand for what they were providing before might not be there after this is all done. But that's the nature of life. That's
life, man.
Yeah, horse and buggies went out and cars came in. So there's something different all the time. That's just the nature of the world.
Yeah, I would agree. It's interesting. I had one of our sessions. The discussion was that we're not the 6 foot social distancing. So the social distancing kind of has a bad connotation. It's like you're not really communicating or staying in touch with people. And she had a twist on it. She said, let's exercise 6 foot physical difference. So I think that's a big difference. And really, people don't feel as locked in as cabin fever if you're communicating like this. If you're still using Zoom, if you're still using some type of communication, that even though you may not be in the same room with them, you see them, you talk with them, you see their emotion as they have a conversation. So it really is almost like being there.
So as I grew up in a Coast Guard family as a kid, the one thing I always did, one very competitive thing, was sailboat racing. And I have not been sailboat racing since this all started. They canceled everything all this summer. I had just finished a sailboat race to the Bahamas. And then when we finished, that's when, Chip, we got some news for you. There's no more basketball. There's no more hockey. Everything's been canceled for baseball coming out. You've got to be kidding me. All since it took a day and a half for us to get here, the world's changed. And tomorrow will be the first time I'm really doing something other than going from my home, which is maybe 5 minutes from here, to my office in 2 months. And I'm going to get a chance to go over there. Yet I feel like, because of technology, I've been all over the place. And as I said, I've had more fun talking with people all over the country, interacting, because you can see the people that, if you like work, that you're playing with every day. And I use it to even try to talk to my opposing counsel, to the insurance company adjusters. If I'm getting upset, I want to see that little vein in their neck pop open and things like that. That you can't do with a telephone. So now that we're using this technology and using it better and able to share documents and other visuals, it's not the wave of the future. It is the way it is now. Right.
I think that's a good way to put it. It's not the future. It is, we're living it now.
Yep.
So let's, we could talk a long time about this, and we could take up the whole show on this. So it's good stuff. It's what we're really living right now, and kind of what this COVID thing has put us through, or what has forced us to do. So I see in the background, you have this thing called Pay Up. Yep. So I know that that's a recent book. So tell me about the book, and then tell us a little bit about your history and what got you here.
Well, for a living, all I've done is represent policyholders, and over the years, they have these stories, and one of the things that kept coming up is, I wish I could tell people, what goes on with insurance claims, where things can go wrong, what they can do to prevent them from having a disaster with their own insurance company. And so I try to show some of the stories of the disasters, and then what they could do to avoid getting into those in the very first place. And so I start talking about from the very start, don't buy cheap insurance. It's cheap for a reason. The last thing, how cheap is insurance that doesn't pay on a claim or doesn't provide?
Exactly. Yeah. If it's cheap, that probably means there's a lot of exclusions, or you're missing something.
Why go buy a cheap tire that's going to give out the wrong time if you get up to 65 miles an hour? I mean, there's a safety fact. The whole reason for insurance is to provide safety and peace of mind for you. Don't go out and be cheap on it, especially as you become more affluent. Typically, people as you get older, as your business and everything is growing, you're gaining more stuff. You're richer. You have more to lose if things don't work out.
You have more exposure, right?
Absolutely, and that's what insurance is. It's a hedge that, in the event something horrible happens to you, you have the foresight to go out and buy insurance to give you the peace of mind that you financially put money aside, and with other people, a big risk pool, that if something bad happens to you or your neighbor, you will be taken care of. And that's what insurance is all about. And I talk about how do you pick your insurance agent, how you pick your sophisticated insurance agent, any possibilities that businessmen need to be taken care of as they go through. How do you select other professionals, an attorney you might need if you have a problem with your insurance company, afterwards. So that people don't get themselves into trouble, and the stories that I've got by the time they get to me, and I would like to prevent that. And that's what was sort of the book, and the thesis of the book, was all about. And I made it so people could read that are not lawyers. It's a good read. And I think some of the things that talk about, the people are just like, you got to be kidding me. This really goes on in the insurance world. But then what's the lesson from it? What can you do to help better protect yourself?
Good. I like it. I think that'll be good. So can we pick that up on Amazon, or how do we pick up the book?
I think it's at Amazon.com. I know it's a Target. I know it's a Barnes & Noble. I think Walmart's got it. I'm surprised. Hey, honey, I got home. I got this insurance book called Pay Up. Are you serious? But People are buying the book. I really am surprised. I thought this is going to be the stupid, I'm going to have to give all these books away because insurance is not exactly the most exciting topic in the world. But
hey, it probably ranks up there ahead of accounting. So don't tell me about boring careers now.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what it is. But I wrote it so I think there's some really crazy stories that we've been involved in over the years that in our firm that, wow, this really goes on. And then the lesson that comes with it, so that it is most people to finish back. I've gotten some very nice comments from people that, Chip, it's really a good read. I learned something from it, and I didn't need to be a lawyer to learn all about it. Again, I wrote it for people so that they'll be better off for having read the book.
Good. There's two takeaways I've got from that. One is the importance of your insurance agent. You need to have an insurance agent that's not just trying to sell you the best policy, but they sell you the policy that fits the risk that you have and the exposure that you have. That's number one. The number two is I'm a strong believer in you don't have to pay for the experience yourself. Learn it from somebody else. You don't have to go through it to be an expert at it, right?
You don't. And as a matter of fact, really good insurance agents have a lot of risk management training. You want to find the best. I talk about how do you find that best insurance agent that's very knowledgeable, and that's what they study. They actually study you and what type of risk, things that you wouldn't even think about, that because you're not in that particular business, know all those particular risks to make certain that you're properly insured. So when something really bad happens, you don't find yourself not covered and then possibly, lose your entire business or whatever else it might be. So yeah, it's insurance is something we all buy, but rarely do any study. Finding that is passionate about that is that's who you want as your insurance agent.
Right. So how many all the insurance policies that we've ever received, how many have we actually read?
I would tell you probably none.
I would agree.
It's just, and even if you read it, I tell everybody, I'll tell judges, you don't read your insurance policy. He doesn't. And even if you did, you wouldn't understand what your insurance policy means. And you're a judge. I mean, you have to have all these cases, all these descriptions and things. There's a whole study just to become an insurance agent. If they make insurance agents study to read and understand what it really means, if you're not in the business, how can anybody really understand it? It's the most crazy product in the world. You don't even get to see your insurance policy until after you pay for it. It's not like going down to the supermarket and an apple or orange. You pick out the best one. You're relying upon your agent to tell you what it is, and then they send it to you only after the fact.
No, I totally agree. So listen, I told you this in the pre-show, and I really believe this, is that the area of law that you specialize in, your firm specialize in is really needed, and that you are really the advocate. You're representing the small guy. You're representing the individuals. You're representing the small business out there that they don't have the horsepower, the money, or the knowledge to go against the big insurance company. So you're filling a void that's really needed. You're helping the small guy. You're not out representing the big insurance company. You're representing those average Joes out there.
And we do. We represent a lot of people. I've told people I've represented and actually filed a lawsuit for a little old lady over a $45 Holder muffler insurance company wouldn't represent on to over $100 million on the Port of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. And so, all these and everywhere in between, but we represent people solely against the insurance company. We're also advocates for them. I show up in Tallahassee at the legislature. It's always the insurance company they have an army of lawyers out there as lobbyists. And I feel like it's just me and a few other people, on behalf of the policyholders. We do our best throughout the country doing this, but the deck is really stacked against the policyholder.
Oh, it is.
I talk a lot about that in the book too, that there's a revolving door at almost every single department of insurance, that they come from the insurance industry, go to work for the Department of Insurance, and they go back to the insurance industry again. I mean, it's the whole, in terms of regulations, there's not a lot of people, doing the opposite. That what we do, it's
right.
Really limited.
Yeah, so I appreciate you doing that, and congratulations on your book. Now, let's talk about this whole coronavirus. One of the things that came out early was business interruption insurance. So will business normal BI policies cover the losses? For instance, you got direct losses and you got indirect losses. So give me some of what's the takeaway on that? You're the expert on that. So tell me what you recommend, or how's that look?
Well, the recommendation for if you have business interruption coverage and you've got loss of civil authority coverage or interruption, your business could not be accessed because civil authorities, the governor, the mayor shuts you down. The one thing we will tell everybody right now is call your insurance agent and tell them to give your insurance company a notice of loss. It's required under every insurance policy. There is one requirement that everybody has to do. If you have a loss, provide the insurance company a notice of loss. And why do you say that, Chip? Well, I don't know what's going to happen right now. I can't predict the future. There's been discussions in Congress about Congress passing a retroactive legislation that is going to provide a backstop to the insurance companies, provide a limited amount of coverage to some businesses who have insurance claims as a result of coronavirus. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. So even if the insurance industry would be correct, if Congress would come in and say, we're willing to do this, the insurance industry might say, well, then we don't have to fight our own customers. If you're going to do this, and everybody who agrees to do this is going to go ahead and do it. But you have to first provide a notice of loss, because that's the requirement. Provide the notice of loss. There's then others and the truth of the matter is about half the policies to a little bit more have an exclusion for virus. That's going to be really hard to get around. I'm not going to say that's going to be easy to get around, argue on those behalf. They may never get the coverage, but for some legislation that might come in place.
So you could have the civil authority allows them to get business interruption, and then you have the virus exclusion that says they don't get it.
They don't. And so, but then you get into two different parts of the insurance, and I don't want to get too technical for everybody, but you have what's called the direct business interruption, so that if like you had a fire and it burned you down, you can make a claim for that. Some people are saying, well, the virus got in here and shut me down. We actually have one client who the chef owns 11 different restaurants, and the head chef who owns the restaurants got the virus. He didn't know about it right away, but he kept going to back and forth of all his restaurants, and everybody else was starting to get sick. They all had to shut down because we know the virus is there. That's not what happened to most businesses. Most businesses got shut down because we're afraid that other people are going to catch everything, and we're afraid that if the virus is at your premises, other people are going to get it, and we're just shutting down all businesses anywhere where people get close. So all the restaurants are all my business is shut down here. Thank God we can start working remotely, but you can't work remotely at a restaurant. There's just no way. So they're all shut down. Other places, sporting events and things like that are all shut down because of these civil authorities. There is a special coverage for civil authority that typically works. If you think back to the Boston Marathon, remember the year when there was a bombing that happened?
Yes.
And then what happened after the bombing? For about a week, they shut down a 2-block perimeter. And these businesses that were in there were shut down as the FBI, the state Massachusetts people were investigating, the police from Boston were shut down because these orders of a civil authority that required them to be shut down because of physical damage close by that occurred. They got paid under their civil authority for their lost income it was anywhere from a few days to 2 weeks for some businesses during this investigation that went on. Similarly, if you read some of the orders, not all the orders, but a lot of the orders say because of the physical damage caused by virus getting in these business places to which other people might, catch the virus and things like that, we're shutting down all the businesses. So if you read the policies carefully, I know most people never read them before, but this is what I do for a living. A lot of the forms say if you're within 10 miles of where the virus might be, okay, and you're shut down because of these civil authorities, which you fit this definition, of it. Now, the insurance company's never going to agree with any of that. They're going to say that the coronavirus really isn't that bad. It's like cleaning up. Literally, one of them, I was on a commentation with another program where my opposing counsel from the insurance company said, it's like you just clean it up with dust. You just wipe it up. And I said, man, just think about that. Somebody comes walking into your office, coughing and wheezing and all this kind of stuff all over you, all over your desk and stuff like that. And then he says, I got the coronavirus. Are you just going to tell me you're just nonchalantly going to just wipe it up like some dust happened?
Yeah, I don't think that would happen.
I don't think that's going to happen. And so we're going to have these, look, there's dogs and cats are going to fight about this. The insurance industry is going to say they're going to go broke from it. They always say they're going to go broke from something. The truth of the matter is if they paid full time and paid every single business for going down all the way through, they would go broke. But, especially on the civil authority, most civil authority coverages only have 4 weeks of coverage.
Ooh.
So it's not going to be a saving grace for everybody. But
is that typically they're going to cover the profits, or is it total revenue?
It's the lost income. So it's not the total revenue. So if you were to shut down and your expenses were to go down during that period of time,
Got it.
It's your income that you would have from that. And it's limited again, not all policies, but most are limited to 4 weeks.
Okay.
For that. But we think those have the best chance of winning, absent the ones that actually have pandemic coverage. And there's a few policies out there that do.
Yeah, those are, my guess is if they had pandemic coverage, those are probably a lot more expensive premiums that they were paying through time.
They paid a lot more premium, and typically those were related to some big major sporting events that were going on, and a few businesses that had it added to some special coverage because they had great insurance agents that provided for the coverage. It's just amazing. I see some of these get issued because they had great risk managers that wrote those clauses in, probably didn't have to pay much, extra premium for it. But these are typically larger corporations that, a lot of times don't even need to come to us because they get their claims paid and things like that.
Right.
Although I believe even insurance companies are arguing with them about how much,
I'm sure. What happens? I know you mentioned the direct, and the direct is probably the easiest. And when they had the full shutdown of certain industries like restaurants or bars, when they said close totally, or all that you can do is offer takeout. So that's kind of a clear line. So what happens with your business interruption when the restaurants are allowed to open back at 50%?
And then that would, it's how much you would lose during that period of time. So it would be just like if you had a fire, you're able to partially reopen back right away, which you're supposed to. As you start to reopen, it's the amount of income you're going to have is going to get, smaller that you're able to collect from your insurance company because it's always an indemnification policy. But even on that, some of the insurance companies, depending on how the policy language is worded, if they say no, that means you can only claim it if you have complete, denial of access to it. So if you're partially reopened and selling it, you don't get it. So we're going to have. There's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of litigation because there's going to be thousands of lawsuits filed over this.
Would there be coverage for indirect losses? For instance, if it is an industry or a business that was not shut down, however, they were unable to get the supplies because of an interruption in the supply chain.
Yeah, and that's called dependent or contingent business interruption coverage. So that even if it didn't happen to you, it happened to somebody else. A flood or something, and then floods covered your policy, but your supplier got wiped out by a flood. And we had this happen in Taiwan and places of those major floods, or it could be the earthquake that happened in Japan, and people can't get their supplies taken care of. They can't finish the car or whatever. The answer is yes. The problem is your policy would still have to cover you for the pandemic coverage in order for them who got shut down by the pandemic coverage. And so we found in actuality, while there's that possibility for it because of the exclusions for the virus, most of the businesses just, don't have it directly on that. We think that's going to be very difficult.
That's going to be difficult. So here's what let's do for the finish of this show, the recording for the radio show is let's hit on a couple of other big points that you have, and then let's carry over to the post show that'll be on YouTube and on the podcast. Let's touch on the captive insurance and how that may play into this for the business interruption. But let's save that for the after show. So we have the direct, the civil order, notice of civil order. What other action or what other issues do you see out there for the policyholder that has a business interruption policy to be able to get a payment from their insurance company for their coverage?
Well, once you put in the notice of loss, then the insurance company then is triggered to do some type of response. Overwhelmingly, the biggest response has been, now they've turned it used to start off with just like a 2-page letter, we're not going to pay you anything, to about a 9-page letter saying we're going to investigate everything, and they give you everything under the sun about everything that they might find that's not going to cover you, for this particular thing, and then says we'll get back to you. And they don't get back. I mean, is the problem. They've just stopped. They're not going to make a payment. Probably in about 5% of the cases, we've actually found where the insurance company's following up and asking more questions. Well, how much money have you lost, and things like that. And then you got to provide them, that information during the time you're done. But we're finding that when we send the information about that to the insurance company, they're not going to the expense of hiring a whole bunch of accountants to figure it out because they're trying to keep their costs down. They typically then they send the denial letter back. Like, how serious are you for this? And the reason why they're somewhat doing this, they know by this time that most of the people have actually made the notice of loss, will follow possibly with a law firm somewhere that's going to monitor the situation, possibly see if they're going to be a candidate for a lawsuit being filed. And so what our firm is doing is finding the best cases to file the best lawsuits, and using the best examples to show how there can be coverage to hopefully get good rulings from courts that will then allow others that might be marginal and things to have a better chance. And there's actually, and I'm having a big debate with some of my colleagues about this. Many larger businesses hate class action lawsuits because it never helps them. They're getting sued for it. The truth of the matter this time, some class actions being brought against the insurance companies. You have so many people that the insurance companies, we got to find a way to get this resolved. And what kind of settlement can we reach that we might be able to put this to bed for everybody? So,
yeah, quicker is going to be better on that for sure.
Well, quicker. I don't think anything's going to get paid quick though. We'll see what's going to happen. The insurance industry has a way of dragging things on, but I'm glad we're only a couple months into this right now. A couple months from now, things might change. You never know when legislation might come up, and who knows what type of deal might get worked, so that we can put it to bed and maybe put this whole litigation done into a settlement mode. But until then, I got to go and think that we're going to be battling this to the very end.
Well, good. Let's wrap up. Chip, tell us the name of your firm and your contact information, and then I'll close us out for the show.
Sure. My name's Chip Merlin. I'm president of the Merlin Law Group. We're based in Tampa, Florida, but we're all over the United States with 13 different offices with 60 attorneys. You can contact me at if you go chipmerlin.com, you can find me that way, and email me, call me. You can go merlinlawgroup.com and find me. You can call 813-229-1000 and call me. I've got my cell number if you go to our website, and I have people call me on cell phone. Believe it or not, I will pick up on my cell phone to call people back.
Excellent. So we will, Chip, it has been outstanding to have you on the show. So stick around. We're going to do some other discussion. We're going to carry this conversation after the radio show. So check us out on YouTube, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio. I am your host, Charles Musgrove with Business Matters. You've gotten a lot of knowledge nuggets right here today. So stick around for more. Thank you. Have a good day. Have a great week. Peace.
The Business Matters Talk Show with Charles Musgrove is sponsored by the Bean Team. For all your business accounting and tax preparation needs, visit beanteam.com or call 893-7710. You can listen to more episodes of Business Matters on Apple Podcast, YouTube, or visit beanteam.com.
All right, Chip, that was good. So let's continue the discussion into is there anything else before we jump to the captive? What else do we need to know about the business interruption policy? It really sounds like if a person has a business interruption policy, they're more than likely, if their agent is not able, they're going to really need to team up with you or another law firm out there that provides this niche service where they defend or they advocate for the policyholder.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is most agents can only go so far on this, and they're getting a lot of pressure and pushback by most of the insurance companies that they have contracts with.
Right.
They aren't pushing this very hard. As a matter of fact, some of the agents that are great advocates for their customers right now are being very quiet about this. I've read in insurance agent negligence type things. It would be negligent, for an agent not to put the notice of loss in. So for heaven's sake, put the notice of loss in. You might be able to give some supporting facts, but you really shouldn't, start practicing law. This really turns into something for lawyers eventually, and both the insurance industry as well as people like myself have really started. We have a team devoted to this right now.
I can imagine it's going to be huge. One thing we didn't touch on previously was, how do you do your fees? Do you work on a contingency basis at the time it's settled, or how do you do that?
We work on a case like this. Almost everybody wants to go contingency fee basis, especially since it's so risky. We really don't know how that's going to work out. Some larger clients, corporations that we do represent, some governmental entities that we represent, will retain us on an hourly basis because they have so much money at risk they don't want to, or we'll even have a small contingency fee with them. So, but I would 90% of all of our clients retain us on a contingency fee, and for those that are more affluent and pay us on hourly, I'd gladly get paid hourly as well. Yeah,
because that's my guess is as you carry those and they last a long time, that gets to be a big number as well.
Yeah, we, by having it on a contingency fee, I'm aligned with my client. I would love for it to get done, quick and get all the money back, but it makes us fight real hard. I'm not trying to just make a big attorney's fees on an hourly basis. And I don't say all attorneys do that, but I definitely align with my client's interest when I'm on a contingent basis. If we don't win, I don't collect, and the sooner I win, the sooner I get paid as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that puts you on the same page with them, so everybody's pulling together.
Right.
They can the client can look at you and they know that too, so they know that you're not getting a whole bunch of money before they don't have anything.
The truth of the matter is most people don't. Who studies insurance law to know what all the benefits are under the policy? Who studies all the regulations and know what penalties the insurance company might have for delaying or not paying you fully? And this is what we do. And there's a lot of gold in insurance policies that, frankly, a lot of people forget to ever make claim because they don't know it's there to begin with to ask for. And the insurance company, I've got a thing over there with the three monkeys of, hear no evil, see no evil. And the insurance adjusters are not about to hear, say, or see anything that's going to help out many customers. They're happy to pay, as little as possible. So I think not only is it that we're aligned to get things done quickly, but also because of our knowledge, we're able to find more within the policies that may never have been claimed.
Yeah, this is, I am not a paid solicitor for you or your firm, but I am a strong believer in what you do. And I would be the first one to tell a policyholder they need to engage Chip Merlin. They need to engage a competent, qualified person like you that can provide that service, because you're exactly right. Those things are extremely complicated. I know we said earlier, who has ever read a policy? And even if they did, would know what the heck they just read. I mean, I doubt even the agents know that. And they're supposed to be the person you deal with that understands the policy the most. And I doubt they know it.
Well, there's agents and there's agents. And you definitely can find out who the leaders in the industry are, who really are very dedicated, that teach others, that write. You can just tell they're so passionate about it. This is what they do. And they know the coverages inside and out. And many times they align themselves in agencies that are big enough that they have claims departments themselves that actually help out and advocate on behalf of their policyholder after the loss happens. Some of those agencies actually they take it so far, will refer cases to us, but they do a great job keeping people away from having litigation without having to keep away from that, making certain that all the claims are being paid for fully and that the insurance adjusters are doing the right job. So again, one of the parts, of the book that I wrote is you want to look for those agents and have them representing you from the very start if you can. So that will avoid having to hire people like me and things just go away the way they should.
Good. Chip, before I forget, and I'll even do this on the recorded part, send me some snippets out of the book that I can include in the description that goes in our podcast and YouTube, and then people can see that and they'll see what an awesome book that is, and we'll link it over to where they can buy it as well. So send that to me. Let's talk about just briefly the role a captive insurance company would play in this business interruption world.
Well, the great thing about captive insurance company, since it's captive and you're part of it, you can decide what type of language you want to have in there. And while it is, typically not in purchases in growing segments, whether it's in particular industries, particular individuals where they have homes or businesses in certain parts of the world, United States. You can't even find regular insurance. You almost have to go to self-insured captive insurance companies, but you get to write the insurance policy. So that if you were concerned about something like a virus, you know, and having pandemic coverage, and since they're custom policies, you actually might find you have coverage for it within the captive that then a reinsurer might pick up for. That's different than what the ISO forms have. And so, you know, I'm in today's day and age, I'm telling, you know, people that are more affluent and the people that are businesses that are in specialized industries, and especially they're finding we can't even afford to pay normal insurance. Well, what can we do to go to a captive, write it for ourselves, get the tax savings, you know,
exactly,
and then get the ability to grow that surplus for your own rather than for the insurance company itself. Right. Most people that have gone into captives that are put up right and done the right way, I've found to be very, very happy. I never have to see them. They don't have to come to me. They're not fighting the insurance company. They're usually the adjustment goes much better that way because it's really themselves that they're insuring. Yeah.
Right. Do you see the captives? Usually those are for the big boys, the big companies. And I've been told that if you're a Microsoft, if you're in the Fortune 500, then you're gonna have a captive of some sort that's covering some risk. That's just the way it is. I mean, the insurance is too expensive. The tax rules and the coverage that you can get from those captives are too good not to use them.
But we're also finding some people that are upper management, even middle management. Suppose you're out and you have a secondary home in Puerto Rico, in the Virgin Islands, in the Bahamas, and it's very difficult to get the hurricane risk insured. We're finding pooled captive insurance companies that are insuring people that are a little more affluent, not the biggest boys in the world, and insuring them very well and taking care of those risks. And you know, because it's a captive, it's very much like a mutual insurance company to an extent, but even it's more mutual than it should. You really feel like you're part of it because it's your own money tied up in a pool, you know, with others. And so the risk of management, the hardening of your buildings, everybody's on the same page that way because you don't want to have losses. So you can build surplus, actually assets from the insurance product itself.
Yeah, that's the way to go. So you're seeing more of that too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And as more countries have allowed more captives out there, there's more reinsurance being applied and allowed for captives. So it makes it easier when they have big catastrophic losses to happen so that they're properly insured.
Right.
I think it's the wave of the future for many people. As a matter of fact, there's even for life insurance for some business owners that how am I going to take care of my taxes if I were to die or when it's time for me to turn over the business to junior, they're going to captive life insurance that way. So they're putting it, why give it to an insurance company when you can set it up? This is your own insurance company.
Well, the other interesting thing is will these things even be more attractive now that this corona's happened? I mean, that may be a way that because in regular business interruption insurance may become more expensive as they cover more of this pandemic cost. So that provides more opportunity for the captive to cover those losses.
Well, it will, but you know, captives also have to be actuarial sound too. So they're going to draft out how they think the pandemics, you know, might play out too. So certainly any policy that's going to be covering pandemic type coverage and any underwriter that sees that then turns it over to actuary is going to be charging more for that today, but you can't even get it in the marketplace today. So if you want to, not for today's pandemic, but for the next one that might come, and maybe it won't be for 10 years, maybe over 20 years, maybe it's 40 years from now, but you still want to have that coverage, you're going to find it much easier to get through a captive, you know, who's willing to take that and pay for the price. And many insurance companies say, look, we can't afford to sell it to the masses out there, you know, and we can't just say one person's going to get it when it's in a captive. You limit the amount of the numbers of people in a captive are usually a lot less. You can then have a policy that might cover for that particular risk.
Absolutely. Well, Chip, is there anything else we want to touch on? This has been a wide-ranging discussion we've had. We've had some great discussion today. So I really appreciate you taking the time to get on the call with us today.
No, it's been a lot of fun. I would say that for everybody out there listening, insurance is with all of us. If you buy a car and you finance it, you got to have insurance. If you buy a home, you got insurance. Your office building, if it's financed at all, they make you go buy it. So it's a product that, it's almost forced on us a lot. But I would stress for people, if you think about it as something as being a product that's there to help hedge against the unknown and provide you financial peace of mind, and if done properly, it should be a cornerstone of your business, of yourself as you're getting older. Find that right insurance agent that knows these things are going to help you. And I think you're going to find that insurance is not such a bad product, but something that can be used to hedge against these huge losses that might come up. As many times as I sue insurance companies, people are surprised every single time. I tell people I believe in the product. It is a great product. Just at the time of the claims payment, sometimes the insurance companies don't come through because it's a lot more profitable to take people's money and not pay claims than to do otherwise. So,
absolutely. It's more profitable for those insurance companies if they never have claims, right?
I'll insure you for the Brooklyn Bridge because they know I don't own the Brooklyn Bridge. Right.
That's right. Well, Chip, I thank you so much. This has been awesome. And check us out on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and we're going to have you back for another session, Chip. This has been awesome. Chip Merlin with the Merlin Group, the attorney to go to defend your policy holders. You can take care of them for any P&C matter. You got it covered. Your group of lawyers. So thank you so much. You cover the whole United States. You got people on the West Coast, East Coast, South, North. So keep up the good work. Thank you for doing what you do. And have a blessed day. Have a great week. And we'll catch you next time.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.